All right, welcome and good evening. Welcome to Tom Talk Live. Hope you guys are having a good Friday. It is Good Friday, so I hope you're having a good Friday. And happy Easter to everyone who celebrates. I appreciate you taking some time to spend with me on this Friday evening, and I hope it's been a good week for you. Had some beautiful weather this week. Really been enjoying that change of pace from the weather we've been having these last couple weeks. I'm really trying to hold on to it for as long as it'll last. Maybe it'll last a little bit while longer. But yeah, please stick around for this one. I'm hoping this will be valuable to you. I'm going to be talking about dealing with imposter syndrome and giving you some tools around that. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about or something you've dealt with, I do invite you to stick around. We're going to be going over that here in just a minute. But do tell me if you're here watching live. Put in the chat that you're here, and let me know who you are, and let me know if imposter syndrome is something you have dealt with in your life. So it's definitely something that I have dealt with. And imposter syndrome, basically, it's that feeling you get when you really are qualified for something, but you just kind of have this feeling like you're not good enough. You have this feeling like people are going to find out that you're a fraud, that you're a fake, that you're not qualified to be doing what you're doing or talking about what you're talking about. And they're going to just kind of know that about you. And you just kind of have this feeling of insecurity, is really kind of what it comes down to. And it's not a good feeling, right? It's not a pleasant feeling to have, and it really stifles us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, because it's important that we learn how to deal with this. It's not just a negative feeling we have; actually is something that holds us back from being able to move forward. So yeah, let me know if this is something that you've kind of felt in your own life and in different ways, maybe how it's shown up. And if you're willing to share a little bit about that, that'd be great. I'm going to share a little bit about mine, but that's what we're going to be digging into this evening. So give me a thumbs up if you are ready to shake off imposter syndrome, right? If you're ready to get rid of this, you don't want this anymore in your life, right? If you're ready to shake it off, give me a thumbs up and let me know that you would like to get rid of this too. I definitely would, right? It's not something that I enjoy feeling, and I'll share something that's kind of ironic here in a little bit as we go along. But yeah, so I've already kind of defined it, told you what imposter syndrome is, and you've probably experienced that. It's pretty common. It's a pretty common thing. Maybe you're one of those people that never experiences this, right? Maybe you just always feel confident in yourself, and you just always know you're the person for the job, and you have the answers, and you're good to go. And there are people like that. Maybe you're one of them. But many of us struggle with that kind of inner voice that's telling us, oh, you're not good enough. People are going to find out. And so, how do you know? Like, what are some of the signs of imposter syndrome? Like, how does that show up in our lives? It shows up in a couple different ways. Typically, if we're feeling that way, we tend to over prepare, right? So, if we are getting ready to do something and we're feeling kind of like an imposter about it, right? We're feeling like a fake, like we're not really qualified. We spend a lot of time preparing, right? We think that through preparation that we will be able to kind of overcome that feeling, and we'll be able to show that we are indeed qualified for this because we have prepared so much for it. So if you're somebody that just tends to over prepare a lot, that could be a sign that you have that feeling of imposter syndrome. Another way that it typically shows up is that you downplay your success, right? So if you've had successes in the past, if you've had accomplishments, things that you have done, you typically will downplay those, right? You're not really seeing those things as evidence that you really are good enough, that you do belong where you're at and with what you're doing, right? So typically downplay achievements, downplay successes and wins, and then also usually not too open and accepting of compliments, right? So if someone says, "Oh, you did an amazing job," so let's say maybe you feel like an imposter around being an artist, right? So you're kind of uh, starting into painting. You kind of, maybe you've been doing it for a little while even. but you just have this feeling like you're not a real artist, like you're an imposter. And even when someone gives you a compliment, says, "Oh, that's so beautiful. Look at you're so great at this," you tend to dismiss those compliments, and that's a good sign that you are kind of feeling that imposter syndrome, right? So that's something that we need to deal with. And then there's kind of that fear, right? Imposter syndrome also kind of has a fear that's there where, oh, they're going to find out, people are going to know, people are going to notice that I'm not really qualified for this. They're going to find me out, right? And then we avoid opportunities. And this is really one of the sad things about this feeling of having imposter syndrome is that we will not take chances on something that we don't feel like we're ready for, right? So that feeling of being an imposter can sometimes hold us back from maybe moving into some area, trying something, maybe jumping at an opportunity that comes along because we're afraid, right? We have that fear that, oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not good enough for this, right? Who am I to be thinking that I could ever do this thing, right? So maybe it's some great opportunity to do something, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not. That's not for me. I mean, it sounds awesome, but I'm not ready for that. Hey, Rachel, good to have you here. Thank you for joining. And yeah, like this was something I keep. It was something I was thinking about. Talking about this topic has been on my mind for a little while now, and the reason why is because I feel it come up time and time again, right? Like I just through different conversations I've had and just my own experiences, I just feel like this kind of keeps coming up in different ways. And so I'm like, there must be something here, and maybe it's worth talking about a little bit. So that's what this is for, right? So I'm hoping that somebody finds this helpful, this valuable, and maybe you get something from it. And if you have your own kind of ways of dealing with that, kind of your own solutions and ways that you have kind of handled it, please do share. I'm definitely not an expert, right? So I'm not pretending to be an expert in this. I just thought it would be good to share and talk about. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here and listening. So let's move on. So we've talked a little bit about the common signs of what imposter syndrome looks like in our lives when it shows up. But then how do we deal with it? Rachel says crying in the shower. That's one way. That's one way to deal with it, I suppose. Yep. Sometimes you just have to, right? Sometimes that's just what it comes down to, crying in the shower. You're already wet anyway, right? Might as well. So how do we, well, first, where does it come from, right? Where does that even come from? Why are we dealing with feeling like an imposter in the first place, right? Why is this popping up in our lives? And I think it could be for a few different reasons. I think sometimes it can come from early conditioning, maybe young adult and even our childhood, where this kind of feeling comes from, where maybe only, we were only praised for perfection, right? And so not effort. Effort wasn't enough. We needed to actually meet the goal. We had to be perfect, or it seemed like that to us, right? Maybe that wasn't actually the message, but that's how we interpreted it. That's how we internalized it. And so this feeling of I have to be perfect in order to be worthy, in order to be good enough. And so maybe you grew up with that feeling, right? Always having to prove yourself, never feeling like you were enough, right? That's a rough way to kind of grow up and develop. And so that has a lasting impact on us, and even moving into adulthood that can really affect us. And so that's, I think, one place where that can come from. And then a lot of times it shows up when we're moving into kind of a new arena, right? So maybe we're trying something new, we're moving into a new position in work, or we're trying out kind of a new hobby, a new thing that we're interested in and started to explore, but we still feel like we don't belong, right? We don't belong with this group. We don't belong in this community. We don't belong with the people that are doing the same things that we're doing. And we look at them, and this is kind of the next point where it goes into this culture of comparison, right? Where we're looking at the people who are doing the thing that we are attempting to do, that we're trying to do, or maybe we even are doing it. And we're looking at those around us who are doing a similar thing. And we think, oh man, look at what they're doing. They're doing so much more. They're so much higher. They're so much better than I am. And I definitely don't belong, right? If I compare myself with them, then, I definitely don't fit with the level that they're at, right? And there's a lot of problems with that thought process, right? There's a lot of problems with that logic. But that's where some of it comes from, right? That's what we're thinking some of the times. And maybe it's one or many of those things. But the thing is, it's not that you're not good enough, right? That thought isn't there because you're not good enough. That thought is there because your brain is wired to protect you from embarrassment and from risk, right? And so the problem is that this risk oftentimes is imagined, right? We come up with this imaginary risk, right? And so therefore we think, oh, I need to protect myself from that risk, right? And so even if there isn't a real risk there, it's just in our minds. Now we're creating, we're trying to protect ourselves from something that doesn't even exist, right? Something that's not even real, that's not even there. Well, hello, my lovely wife. Kim says comparison can turn into a competition with other people, which isn't fair to us or others. Right. That's very true. And so, yeah, sometimes we get into this mindset where, we're comparing ourselves and, yeah, feeling we have to compete with others. And that's not healthy. Yeah, that's not healthy for us, not healthy for them. Very true. Very true. So regardless of where that's coming from, right? Maybe there's even some other reasons that I haven't thought of, because I'm not a psychologist, right? I don't know all the inner workings of our minds and where this stuff comes from. But regardless of where it comes from, I think there are some tools that we can implement that will help us moving forward, right? So how can we shake this? How can we get rid of this feeling, even if we don't get rid of it completely, right? How do we learn to work around it? How do we learn to be able to not allow it to keep us from moving forward? So, the first strategy or tool that I'd like to share with you is the evidence file. Now, the evidence file is simply a way for you to collect the evidence, right? That you are worthy, right? The good stuff you have done, the accomplishments that you have. And you can actually do this, right? You can actually have like a physical folder, right? A file folder where you put different things that you've collected, compliments, testimonials, different evidences of your accomplishments and wins, moments of progress, moments where you did something great, right? And it can be anything, right? Anything that's meaningful to you, and maybe you can collect that in different ways. It doesn't have to be physical, but something that can be there when you are feeling this way, right? When those feelings of inadequacy come up, when those feelings of being an imposter show up, you can go to that evidence file, right? You can look over the different things that you have done, right? You can look at the things that show that, hey, I have accomplished some things, right? Um, I am worthy. I do good things. I do good work, right? Whatever the scenario might be, whatever it is that you're feeling this insecurity about, look at the good things you have done, right? Take stock of your accomplishments. Take stock of the good things that you have done, because that's important for us to do. And I know that's a struggle for me sometimes, right? Because I'm always on to the next thing, right? Even if I do something good, I feel good about it for like a minute, and then I'm like, all right, what's next? Let's go on to the next thing. And sometimes I don't take enough time to really enjoy the fruits of my labor, right? To really appreciate the things that I have done and get to enjoy that, kind of relish in that for a little bit, right? And then revisit it in the times that I start to feel like, oh man, I'm just not really that good at anything, right? What am I even trying to do here? I can go back to those things and say, yeah, like I feel good about that. I've gotten compliments from other people about this. I have evidence that I can do this. in fact, right? So to go against this story, right? And this kind of is kind of in line with even what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago with the stories we tell ourselves, right? It's kind of connected in a way with that because this is one of those stories we tell ourselves, right? This is a limiting belief where we feel like we are a fraud, we're an imposter, we're not good enough. And that shows up time and time again. So if I have something to battle at, if I have actual evidence, right, the facts, the reality is that this isn't true. This is just something that my mind has created. It's this story that I'm telling myself that I'm not good enough, when in fact, I am. When in fact, I have evidence that shows that I'm good enough. So think about collecting that evidence. What would that look like for you? What are the things that you can gather together that would be a good reference for you when you're starting to feel like you're not good enough? Um, and this kind of is a part of that, which is the positive self-talk. So this is still part of this tool, um, but positive self-talk is so important to develop, right? To be able to talk to ourselves, give ourselves grace, because we're not always winning, right? There are times where we mess up. There are times where we fail. There are times when we don't do a great job, right? At whatever the thing is, right? Um, but to still have that positive self talk where we are hyping ourselves up, where we're giving ourselves grace, where we are showing ourselves love and unconditional support, right? So instead of talking to ourselves very harshly, think about how you talk to a friend. Think about how you talk to one of your children, right? Or a loved one, someone that you're trying to encourage, and maybe they have failed in some way, right? They have not achieved what they were setting out to achieve. How do you speak to them, right? Are you harsh on them and tell them that they're not good enough and of course they couldn't do this? No. But yet we speak to ourselves. How often do we speak to ourselves that way, where we're harsh with ourselves and saying, "Of course you didn't do it. Of course you couldn't. You're not good enough to do this," right? That harsh self-critic voice, that critical voice that we have, needs to change, right? We have to be able to instead have a way of speaking to ourselves that is loving and full of grace and full of compassion, and that allows us to really build that self confidence, right? That internal intrinsic value, and that's so important. And I'm really realizing that more and more in my own life, because there are times, and I think I've shared this before too, where I tend to look for external validation. I tend to look towards others to tell me that I'm doing a good job, instead of just feeling in myself that I'm doing a good job. And it's not just about the job, right? It's really about self worth. And so, am I telling myself that? Because that's more important to hear it from myself. So develop that positive self talk. That is definitely important. Okay, so the next one, the next tool that I think will help in this battle against imposter syndrome um, is, well, you've heard the typical saying, right? Anytime you're talking about imposter syndrome, the saying goes, "Fake it till you make it," right? So give me a thumbs up or let me know in the comments. Have you heard this before? You probably have, right? That's pretty common. It's a pretty common saying. Fake it till you make it. And I get the idea behind it, right? Fake it till you make it is just kind of like, yeah, you don't feel like you're actually good enough. You don't feel like you are making it, right? So just fake it until you make it. And so it seems like sound advice on the surface, but it's never sat right with me, right? It doesn't feel good to fake it. And that's kind of the problem to begin with, right? We feel like an imposter. We feel like a fraud. We already feel like we're having to fake it and pretend like we know what we're doing when we feel like we have no idea what we're doing. And so that's why this idea of faking it's never really sat well with me. And so I propose to you an alternative to fake it till you make it, which is show up till you grow up, right? Show up till you grow up. And basically, the idea is that you continue to show up, right? Even if you don't feel like you're quite there yet, right? You're going to continue to show up. You're going to continue to take action. You're going to continue to be there and go through this process. And that through the process of showing up, you will grow, right? You will grow into who you need to be for that specific circumstance, right? If you just keep showing up. The problem is when we don't show up, right? And that's what imposter syndrome can do to us. It hinders us from being able to show up like we need to. And so if we realize, hey, I just need to move forward, I need to move through this, I need to show up, I know that if I do that, I will grow in the ways that I need to, right? And that's normal. It's normal to have to grow in new situations. So many of these areas where we feel like we're a fraud, where we feel like we're an imposter, it's because we are moving into a new area, right? And maybe we haven't mastered it yet, and that's okay. If you feel like you've mastered everything in your life, that's kind of boring, right? We need to be in areas where we haven't mastered it yet, where we do have room to grow. And that area, that space of growth where we feel like we're not where we want to be yet, that can be a scary place, right? That can make us feel uncomfortable. It can make us feel like an imposter, but that is the best place to be because that's where we are growing, right? That's where we are learning, we are stretching ourselves, and we are becoming more than we were before. And so if we continue to show up, we will continue to grow up. And so that is my alternative to you. Don't overthink it, don't over prepare, right? Just dive in, just move forward, because that's what imposter syndrome will want you to do. It'll want you to hold back. It'll want you to say, "Oh no, you got to think about this more. You got to get ready. Make sure you've dotted all your T's, dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and that you're completely ready for this before you take action." But the problem is, you'll never feel that way, right? You won't ever feel like you're ready if you don't take action. If you don't just dive into it. Now, I'm not saying don't do any preparation. I'm not saying don't think about it at all, right? You're not just winging it, but you're not over preparing. You're not overthinking. You are doing an adequate amount and then you're taking action. You're moving forward. It's time to move forward. And we have one more tool that I want to share with you, which is reframing the fear, right? Reframing the fear. So instead of thinking of it, right, you're changing the story, right? If we're going back to that concept of this being a story you're telling yourself, right? That you're an imposter, that you're not good enough, right? Why am I the person, right? Who am I to do this, right? We're going to change the story. Why not me? So instead of why me, why not me? Why can't I do this? I'm somebody who can do this, right? So we start to change that narrative in our minds. We start to tell ourselves that we are good enough and we are learning and we are growing and we are becoming. And I really like that word, becoming, because it allows us to realize that, yeah, we're not where we want to be yet, but we're making progress towards it, right? And that's an okay place to be, right? It's okay to be in that place where we are growing, where we are becoming who we truly want to be. And so part of that is accepting who we are now and realizing we want to continue to grow, we want to continue to move forward and be better than we were before. And I think that really in that space, that's where real joy lives, right? That's where real peace lives. And so being able to understand that process, being able to understand those feelings that come up of not being good enough, of being an imposter, and then being able to speak to that and move past it is so important, not getting hung up on it. Because I imagine you're probably not going to ever be able to completely get rid of those feelings, right? No matter how great this live stream is, however many tools I give you, no matter what I say, those feelings are going to come up, right? We're going to have those feelings where we just feel like an imposter, right? It's natural to feel that way. It's not just this crazy feeling, and so it's not so much about never having that feeling again or getting rid of it completely, but it's about understanding how to speak to that part of ourselves, speak to that story that's coming up and those thoughts that we're having, so that we can continue to move forward. So that's not paralyzing us, that's not holding us back from becoming, right? From moving into this new space that we want to be in. So I'd like to do something with you right quick. Have a little bit of time for reflection. So we're going to take just a moment, and I'm going to give you two different questions, two different prompts that you can choose from. And you don't have to share this in the chat if you don't want. But I appreciate you all who are being here. So thank you, Rachel, for that. And anybody else who is watching, I'd like you to, or maybe you're watching afterwards, right? After the live stream, that's fine too, in the replay. So there's two questions. The first question is, what would I do this week if fear and doubt weren't getting in the way? What would I do this week if fear and doubt weren't getting in the way? And then here's the second prompt. What's one awesome thing about me that I can remind myself of when I start feeling like an imposter? What's one awesome thing about me that I can remind myself of when I start to feel like an imposter? So go ahead and write that down wherever you got. Maybe you got to open up a note in your phone, wherever you want to put that, or maybe save that for later when you're journaling and write that down. It's good to have those reminders to ourselves. And so I want to share my own story. Actually, it's kind of ironic. I alluded to this earlier. It's kind of ironic that I was actually feeling when I was preparing for this live stream that I'm doing right now. I felt those same feelings of being an imposter. I'm like, who am I to get on there and tell these people about how to, deal with imposter syndrome? Like I'm not anybody. I'm not an expert on this. Who am I? So I was feeling the imposter syndrome. I was feeling like an imposter, not good enough, not prepared. And so I was over preparing, right? I was doing the things that I was just talking about, overthinking and over preparing. And like, oh, I got to have everything ready and I got to do all these things and make it perfect, right? So I can prove to them and to myself that I'm not an imposter. And so those feelings were very real for me in preparing for this. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway. Even though I feel that way, I'm just going to move forward. I'm going to take action and I'm going to do something, right? And in that action, we start to feel better, right? We start to feel like, you know what, I can do it. Maybe I didn't do it perfectly. Maybe it wasn't the best, but it wasn't terrible. I can do this, right? And I'll get better as I continue to do it, right? I'm going to continue to show up and I'm going to continue to get better. And I just think that's how so much of life is, right? We're just not perfect at anything, especially at the beginning. And so just being able to move forward, being able to start taking action is so life-changing. And so I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to think about, what are you afraid of doing, right? What is it that you're scared of pursuing? You're being held back by fear and by doubt. What is that thing that you would love to do if that was gone, right? If that just disappeared, if it evaporated, I'm curious, what would you do? What is it that you're wanting to do? All right, Kim says, sometimes it's easy to stay in imposter mode because we don't want to disappoint ourselves or others. Yeah. And I think that's a very good point, right? So it's that whole thing, if I try, I might fail. But if I never try, then I don't have to worry about failing, right? And I won't disappoint anybody. I won't let anybody down. But it's really not true, right? Because if we never try, then we are letting ourselves down, right? We are letting ourselves down by never having even attempted it. And that is a different, I think, worse kind of failure, right? It's one thing to try and fail, and there's I think, growth from that, and there's honor in that. And it's through that we get better. And so if we never try, yeah, we might not disappoint anybody, but really we are letting ourselves down in another way, right? But yeah, thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. So remember, imposter syndrome is common. It's not permanent, right? It's just a feeling that comes up. It's a story we're telling ourselves. It's in our minds. It's not based on reality. It's not based on fact. We can look at the facts, right? We can look at the things we've done, the evidence that shows that we are good enough, that we can do things, that we do have value, right? And we're not just valued by the things that we've accomplished either, right? We have intrinsic value, right? We are valuable because we are a human being, right? We have that. And so if you start to feel those feelings, right? If you are worried about, oh, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not able to do this thing, right? Realize that you just need to continue to show up, right? It's not failure is not failure. It's just a sign of growth. That's what it is. And so consider these tools that we talked about this evening. I hope they're helpful. And again, if you have some other things that you do that help you, please do share. And if any of these things helped you, I do ask that you would reach out to me. Let me know what it was that helped you in this session. And if there's anything that just stood out to you, any kind of insight that you had, I would love to hear more about that. And if this is something that you really do struggle with, something that is keeping you from being able to move forward, I would love to take some time to discuss it with you one-on-one. Feel free to reach out to me. You can direct message me and we can set up a time. And I would love to chat with you a little bit about that and see if there's some ways that we can help move you past that and into the thing that you're just wanting to do and loving to do. Because I think that's really what life's all about. So I encourage you to reach out to me if you would like to have that. But remember, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Remind yourself that you are capable, that you are qualified, and that you are becoming who you want to be. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to have more of these. Let me know if this is something that you're getting value from. You can also take a look over my YouTube channel. A lot of this stuff is going to be over there as well. I'm streaming to both my Facebook and my YouTube account. And so I'm going to be putting more content over there as well. So go check it out if you'd like. I hope you all have a great Friday evening and have a great Easter weekend. Take care.